We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such. I know y'all tired of it, but we got a new season of The Pass. Welcome to season 8, the Mamba Year. Podcast available on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of your podcast platforms. Here you'll get a dose of content related to tech, the productivity world, and most importantly, how to be a better you. The theme for this year, personally, is receiving grace. And we definitely want to do better with receiving it and being open to being a better us from who we were a year ago. So this is season 8 of The Pass, and I hope you all enjoy. What up? What up? What's good? How's everyone doing today? 413 of The Pass is here. You know we back on this thing like we ain't never left. BT back with another episode. And of course, a notification would go off when I don't need it to. But I wish you all well today. And yeah, man. We got a good amount of content to get into this morning. Recording from the home front, so it may, I don't know how it go. I don't need to give y'all the whole intro spiel, but yeah, we doing the home show, so it's gonna be a nice little flow. Got a lot to unpack, a lot to discuss. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm gonna start with some sports. Sports will be relatively quick, but relatively real. And y'all know how we're just going to make it work. A video was online. I will have the link in the show notes for this video. And it was about the top 4 all time at each position by this content creator's merit. There was no breakdown on specifics other than this is who they had and this is how it went. I'm gonna name off the players, and I'm gonna kind of give some info that I have about these, and also some names that one of my colleagues mentioned, one of my coworkers had brought up related to this. So I want to be sure that I'm across the board open in my dialogue and or delivery with this discussion, because I like these type of discussions because, you know, whenever you read or you have stuff come up, there is no right answer as much as people think there is a right answer, in my opinion. I know I'm like prolonging it, but I'm gonna unpack it and we're gonna run with it. So for point guard, they have Steph, Magic, Westbrook, and Isaiah Thomas. Shooting guard, Jordan, Kobe, D-Wade, James Harden. Small forward, LeBron, Larry Bird, KD, Kawhi. Power forward, Duncan, Dirk, Giannis, and KG. Center, Shaq, Kareem, Hakeem, Bill Russell. These lists can get, and I'm starting with this because this is always my disclaimer. Lists can get tricky, so do not take lists for face value. This is this content creator's thoughts or feels. I agree with a good amount of it. There are some people that I feel like were left off, and I feel like there are some who they're there, but they're not there yet. And it's tough to really decide or distinguish on players based on prime, etc., things of that nature. So point guard, I didn't see any issues with point guard.
one of my coworkers or one of my colleagues said, remove Russ and put Nash. And that brought up an interesting dialogue, because if you really look at it and really break it down, Steve Nash was one of those dudes that just, he played the game, man. He did it the right way and it worked. Give me one sec. I'm coming clean with this one. If I can get, I may have to make an investment again. I think it's time for me to go back to what I know, and that is to do a scissor arm stand for this mic, because I'm one of those people, and I'm blaming my sis. So episode 400, if you go back and listen to that show, yes, there was background noise. Yes, it was a different environment, but in the end, the content was created, so everything worked out great. But one thing that stood out to me was she had the scissor arms for both. She had two mics, and she had what's called, if you know about podcasts, a lot of people use scissor mics, or scissor mic stands, where you literally can kind of sit the mic on a table, and it gives you a lot more leniency to move and adjust the microphone. And it's a different vibe, because like even just now, like I got it on a stand. My stand is great. I love this stand. This is probably one of my favorite stands that I've bought. But sometimes I'm one of those people that's like, I need to move this around a little bit and kind of get into my groove, get into my zen. And it's tough to do in recording, because then you can hear like the mic adjusting and all that. So off topic, way off topic. Shooting guard. I might be a little weird for what I'm about to say, and I'm a co-sign with my colleague on this as well when she mentioned it. I would take Harden off and put Iverson. A lot of people look at it like, well, Iverson was a point guard. Iverson was not a point guard. Iverson played ball with Eric Snow, and I threw to anyone who knows me knows I watch ball. So I named two players to her that were like almost like those, you got to know basketball to know these players. And it was like Matt Geiger and Dikembe Mutombo. And I think it was even worse because at that time they had, what's his name? They had Theo Ratliff. When they were, especially when they were in the finals trying to compete with Kobe. But yeah, I would take Harden out and I would put Iverson. Just my personal take. You always hear that phrase pound for pound, like one of the smallest guys but had the biggest hearts in basketball, and I don't want to take away from his acumen or his display of basketball in that recognition. Just my take on that. Small forward, I don't see anything. Maybe it's players that I'm not thinking of right offhand. Durant, by far, it's almost like you can't teach 7 feet or 7 foot. So I do like this four. Power forward, obviously I'm gonna love this because you got two of if not three of my faves. Let me go back. Small forward is just tough because he doesn't have any championships, but I don't really think championships should go into this discussion. But I think T-Mac should be in this at like an honorable mention because he's a small forward that does not really get talked about enough in basketball. You were beginning to see small forwards become like a big deal. You could kind of make that case in who would you take off, and you could put Pippen in there too. I think Pippen doesn't get his recognition. It's always talked about it was like Jordan and the Bulls. Power forward, Duncan, Dirk. Like I said, Dirk goes on my list, or is always going to be a fave of mine, because he literally was a true definition of what you call a torch master. Like, dude could get the ball and score it anytime on anybody. And it was not just, he made bigs play him outside of the paint. Like, him and Garnett introduced kind of that stretch four in a sense, where it was like, oh, you're a big man, cool, but I'm not getting on this block. I mean, you're a power forward. You can play the block. Yeah, I'll play the block, but I'm going to kind of stretch and go to this mid-range a little bit and then work my way inside. Or Dirk was just a pure shooter. He could hit from the three in his sleep. Duncan, what isn't there to say about Duncan? Duncan has done his part in just showing up, and the proof has been in the pudding from day one. So I don't have any backlash about him whatsoever. Giannis, it's like we've seen the evolution by far, like with the multiple MVPs, winning the finals, getting finals MVP. Like we know what we're getting. Center is a little tough because Jokic is the definition of a non-traditional center, but Jokic is becoming like a transition into like what we're seeing of possibly the future of bigs. We only have 1 year, but I think soon Wemby will probably be talked about in this space. I won't say top 4, but at least top 5, maybe top 8. I think Wemby does not get his due. Like, Wemby is a very raw player, but on the same token, it's like what you see is what you get. Hakeem gave Shaq fits during the playoffs and in basketball in general, and Russell was just that guy. A lot of people had questions. I've seen this conversation come up with what about Wilt? And Wilt is like, it's a little tricky, but then there's always this like unfair shake of he didn't play against anybody or the competition wasn't his height, and it's like, so is that on him or is that on the competition? Like, if I'm playing in a league and I'm the biggest guy on the court and I have a chance to score more than everybody else, I'm going to take advantage of it. It shouldn't be, we're going to fault him or we're going to take away from him for that. Like, that just doesn't, it's never made sense, and it will never make sense to me personally, but that's my take on it. And before we go any further, I just realized I got a much easier way to do what I did earlier with the mic adjustment, because as you all know, and as you all have heard or are beginning to hear, the shows are now in a different audio flow with using the Vocaster and the Rode mic. So something as simple as doing this, where you can't hear nothing, can make all the difference in the world. And maybe it could be a sign of this might be something to start using. So we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. I moved some stuff around, but I forgot to move one thing. So let me move that now. But I'm going to talk about it anyway. The Bronny. I'm going to say this because I can. If nothing else has been clear this year, it's almost as though I don't think it matters what Bronny does, right or wrong. They're going to find anything to say about him just because it's Bronny. And the Summer League this year has made it very clear. It's almost, and I put this literally as a bullet point of the note, is Bronny Tracker. Every game that he's played, we've gotten his stats. And to be 100% honest, I really don't care. I personally don't care about a player's stats during Summer League, just as much as I don't care about a player's stats during preseason. If we're being technical, I don't care about stats during regular season. It's what are you doing in the playoffs? And it's not even statistically, like, what is your impact on a team for the playoffs? Like, if you're on a roster, but like Bobby Portis kept himself in a key role with Milwaukee, not just on a defensive level, but also giving baskets when he was put in to get baskets. Michael Porter Jr. is not the most all-around scorer. Like, when he played in high school, he was a dog. He was a bucket. He got to it. He didn't play. His brother, all right, we ain't gonna get into that. We're gonna keep the legal stuff away from the podcast. But he got to Missouri, really didn't play. We kind of got a brief flash of him. Got to the league, went through ups and downs, went through injury, health concerns. And he's been able to now just play. Like Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon needed a role to not be that guy. And by not being that guy, he's been fulfilling his role in playing. So I mentioned all of those names, and I know I'm just talking about Denver and I talked about Milwaukee, but I'm naming these players for the sake of, you don't have to do damaging nerve-ending numbers in basketball to remain a basketball player in the league. If Bronny can get on the Lakers rotation and at least get into their 8 or 10 man rotation and give you a solid 5 to 8 points a game, that's something. I don't want to do it now, but I could easily do it. There are plenty of players that I have watched or have noticed who have played basketball, who have gotten to the league and have genuinely been the epitome and the true definition of a role player. And it's either kept them in the league or put them one step closer to not being on an NBA roster. And we see it all the time. Like it comes with the territory. It comes with that incentive of you're here, you're on our team. We need you to help in any and every way possible. And when your number's called, show up. So that's that on that, and that's my take on that topic. Of course, they want me to select stuff, and I don't feel like it. Health, whatever, 5 or more. Sorry, I'm trying to get to the next story, and I need the actual article to talk about this. But of course, where they have it, it's hidden behind something, so I can't get directly to it. But a thing happened. And its timing couldn't have been any bigger than it happening on a Friday. If you were under a rock, Microsoft had an outage. And this outage affected STEM on every level. And what I mean by that, and I'll also throw in the financial aspect of it, it affected airports, hospitals, and banks around the world. There was an update with CrowdStrike, which is a security company, cybersecurity company found. I'll kind of read the story and we'll go into it a little bit. A massive technology outage has hit computer systems globally, affecting airlines, hospitals, healthcare providers, 911 call centers, banks, and other businesses. CrowdStrike, a cybersecurity company founded in 2011, owns more than 10 different security and IT tools, and according to the company's website, is involved with almost 300 of the Fortune 500 companies, 6 out of the top 10 healthcare providers, 8 of the top 10 financial services firms, and 8 of the top 10 technology firms. President Biden was briefed on the outage, and his team has been in touch with CrowdStrike, according to a White House press release Friday morning. Biden is expected to receive sector-by-sector updates, and the Department of Homeland Security is working to fully assess and address problem outages. What exactly is the problem? This is where you all will understand a little bit clearer as to what happened. I'm going to say yesterday, but you will probably hear this a few days after. Devices using Windows Client and Windows Server that automatically installed a CrowdStrike security update Friday morning are stuck in a restarting state. This restarting state is more colloquially referred to as the BSOD, or blue screen of death, which locks users out of their computers. And it's interesting because there was an update that was on my computer, and I think I did it late yesterday, so I should be fine this morning. We'll check and find out. 2 issues with Microsoft systems happened back to back. On Thursday, some Microsoft clients in the central U.S. reported having issues with its cloud service Azure, which resulted in several airlines briefly grounding all flights. And I'm going to explain the airport correlation to you all, because a lot of people understand it, but they don't. So I want to give some insight to that. On Friday, a flawed security update by CrowdStrike affected even more Windows users. It's not clear whether Microsoft's initial issue with Azure was related to the crashes caused by the CrowdStrike update. George Kurtz, CrowdStrike's chief executive, issued a statement Friday morning clarifying that It is not a security incident or cyber attack, and that the issue has been identified, isolated, and a fix has been deployed. We're deeply sorry for the impact that we've caused to customers, to travelers, to anyone affected by this, including our company. I'm not going to go too in depth because a lot of it is really, really intense. But I share that story and I share this article because a lot of people did not realize how impactful this would be until it like all went how it did. And it was like, oh, this is like really a big deal. And it's like, oh, it's definitely a big deal now. We don't want to make light of, because in one way, shape, or form, even if you don't deal with the product, you deal with the product. Like most businesses, majority of companies, especially corporate companies, use Microsoft. Bottom line, there's no escaping it. There's no dancing around it. There's no nothing. And by that happening the way it did, it caused a lot of businesses to have to manage how they did everything with various transactions, activities, things of that nature. So I'm gonna go back to what I mentioned about the bank part, and I'm also gonna just kind of explain to people to not be as panicky about it as everyone seemed when it all happened, because things are gonna happen. Like, it's technology. We live in a predominantly digital world as it is. When you go to an airport, I don't care where you are in whatever city, the screens that are up there are giving you a visual display of your airport information, like where to board, what flights, if it's any delays, all of that status information is all updated. You get a pretty nice visual look on that screen. However, those are all desktop. Those are all running from like a remote area that is pretty much a Windows computer. And if you ever see one not running, it's likely going to show you that desktop where it shows the recycle bin in a folder, or it'll just have a recycle bin. But someone has already set up whatever it needs to be set up to have it show what it needs to show to run properly from your end as a traveler. Why this is such an impact on the travelers is because as flights are traveling, as flights are landing, they have to land at a certain port or at a certain boarding area. If that boarding area is not open for a flight to come in because another flight has not left out, or communication is not made for those flights to be aware of, like, hey, I'm flying in to land into this area. You know, you make your move. As soon as you leave, I'm the next one coming in. Like, if you ever pay attention to airport, and this is general information, so I'm not saying anything that's like riveting or not like surprising, but in different sectors of airports, despite how large or small they are, you have your Spirits, your Deltas, your United Airlines, your Southwest, et cetera, and they're all sectioned so that when Southwest is expected to land at C9, when that C9 flight lands, the other flight that should be going out needs to be in a position to be out and in the air for that other flight to come in. And it can happen within a good amount of time, along with having to board, deboard a flight and all that stuff. And let's not even get into if someone decides to have one of their moments on a flight where it's like, hey, I'm going to do something and I got no business doing, and I'm going to cause an impact to everybody on the flight. And it's like, thanks for being selfish. We appreciate you as a person. But no, it can get real tricky and kind of catch you off guard if you're not paying attention to it. But mainly just stay, it's a simple phrase, but it's a genuinely helpful phrase. Just stay on your P's and Q's and like do what you can and not be stressed at all costs in these circumstances. But a lot of people were in shambles yesterday with with technology. I even ran through a couple of bumps on my end. Some of it was tech error, some of it was user error. So we had that going on, but luckily everybody got through. As a friend of mine said it, now we need to, in the event of things like this happening again, we need to bring it back to what's important as community. We need to be more vocal. We need to be more, more clear in like our true resources with each other and not disregard that. So I'm going to quote what she said specifically so I don't paraphrase it. I hope we are realizing how important it is, how important it's going to be to have community with people that's nearby. Yes, social media is an amazing tool, but look at the world. You will need community nearby. And to that point, like even more interesting, what isn't talked about or I haven't even gotten into is this didn't just affect us in the US. This was global. Like a lot of companies and a lot of businesses do global business via Microsoft. Like Microsoft has a very massive infrastructure. So that happening can have a huge impact without you knowing. Like if it's like a small, quick bug and it's like, oh, cool fix, quick fix, we can get it done, no problem. That's one thing. But this was a big deal, like a super big deal. So just being aware of that and being like more in tune with understanding things will help out a lot. That's why sometimes with doing updates, it's smart to not be pushy with an update and just, if you know you're able to do it, go ahead and do it, but don't like do research. Or if you aren't sure whether I should mess with this update or not, check with folks you know who are in tech and ask. Some of them will tell you like, hey, this might be a good one to do, or hey, wait a little bit. It's some stuff going on with it. Let them kind of iron that first part out and then download it and install. And this goes into my next topic. And this is probably going to be a little bit of a rant, but I'm not going to make it a rant if I don't have to. The phrase and or term of being tech savvy has got to go. And what I mean by that, or when I say that, I reference that as a lot of times individuals will make a statement of, oh, I'm not tech savvy. Or it's I don't want to say a cop out, but it's a way of saying I'm not comfortable with doing this thing, so I'm not going to do it because I don't want to cause any harm or detriment to my product, which is understandable. But if anything is being provided to you, like, okay, and I'm gonna layer this out and it'll all make sense in a moment. There are two different lanes in IT and or technology. There's software, there's hardware. In the tech world, I've referenced it as the Hatfields and the McCoys. It's such a weird thing, but it's such a reality. Like as someone who's worked in tech, as someone who has gone to school in tech, as someone who's pretty much been a part of or consumed every source or form of tech necessary, it's love-hate relationship on both ends. Bottom line, like there's no pretty or cute way of putting it. And why I'm making that reference and why I'm using that terminology is because there are some things that hardware people are not comfortable with doing in software. And there's some things in software, like if you're very good with utilizing a software product, it's like, cool, I can use these products, everything can work and all is fine and dandy. But when an issue comes up, and if it's related to like a physical device, oh, no, I can't do it. This is too much. It's not going to work. I'm out. And it's like, okay, I get you. It's fine to be that way. But on the flip side, like, let's assess, let's look at what's going on and like, let's piece it together and try to see how we can resolve it. Like, speaking from personal experience, like my work computer one day, I think it was a Friday, ironically. I'm signing in and I'm like, okay, I'm going to sign in. I'm gonna hook it up to my wireless, my portable monitor, which by the way, if you like, side note, anyone that is remote or does any type of remote based work, if you're using a laptop or if you're using a desktop and it's offered or available to do, get a portable monitor, please. Like, If your computer has an HDMI port on it and can connect a portable monitor to it, get one. I'm not sitting here saying you got to buy the viral Arzopa. I've shared this and I don't got no shame talking about it. A couple years ago, I bought one on Wish. I still have that monitor. I use it when necessary. I grew up a little bit and I was like, okay, let me see what the Arzopa hype is about. I've joined the Arzopa madness, and I don't regret it. Like, the Arzopa monitor does what I needed to do. And more than that, what I personally like about it as well is, if let's say I'm somewhere traveling and I'm like, oh, I need to carry whatever items I have of my monitor, my laptop, things of that nature. Get a nice sleeve for it. Have your cables, like the monitor I have, the monitor fits in there. The cables, I have 3 cables: the HDMI cable, the USB-C to USB-C cable, which most people are going to use, and then the old school USB-A to USB-C, which is more for if you need to plug, like your power source is going to likely be a wall charger if you're using the last one. But I know everything that I just said will probably be like, this is going to push those folks that are not hardware comfortable to be like, I don't understand it. I don't get it. It don't make sense. But I'm going to give you an easy way to look at things. If something connects and you try to connect it and it doesn't turn on, go in reverse, see why it doesn't turn on. Now, if you're battling with it and you're not sure, call a resource and ask questions, and someone will likely guide you through. Like, going back to my situation, or my thing that happened, like, the laptop was not, like, it was turning on, it was working fine, but it was not connecting. When I would connect it to the monitor would not turn on. And I'm like, why is this not turning on? And I'm sitting here like, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, whatever. And there's a difference with computers that a lot of people don't think about. Whenever people have an issue, the first thing naturally are going to do is they restart the computer. Restarting a computer is not the same as shutting down a computer. Like, it's no different. And this is Tech Tip 101. It is no different than putting your screen, like hitting Control Alt Delete, and you have the options on screen to lock your screen, but you didn't actually lock your screen. Like, to some people, and I know I'm going into a tech rant, but I want to talk about this because I need people to understand this. If you don't think it's valuable to lock your computer, leave your phone unlocked. And when I say leave it unlocked, take off the passcode, take off the Face ID, leave it open and available, and leave it on the table. And just watch from a distance and see what happens. Because someone's going to be nosy. They're going to look at it. Or not even, you don't even have to go that, you don't even need to do this in public. You could do this at home. Leave it somewhere, leave it and have it where it's accessible. Somebody can get to whatever. And if they get to whatever, you've made it so that it's open access. The same applies with your company laptop and even your personal laptop. Like, you do not, if you have an ability to lock it, because you don't want people to be able to access what you have access to. Like, it's your personal access. It's no different in your car. You're not going to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to go wherever and I'm gonna leave my car unlocked and just go do what I need to do. No, you lock your car once you leave your car. That's why when people go places, that's why they're very emphatic about hitting their horn, as far as making sure, like, oh, it locked. Okay, cool. Let me hit it again because I need to be sure it locked, because it's a big deal. But the tech savvy phrase, if you're gonna use it, be confident in being real to who you are. Like, if you're like, hey, I'm not comfortable with hardware, totally fine, totally understandable. Like, I have folks who I personally know that are like, I don't want to mess with this because if I mess with it, I feel like I'm gonna break it. And I'm like, okay. And let's you walk them through it. And then a lot of times, like, it's so funny because I've had people who want to learn the thing that you may be capable of being able to fix. And then when you fix it, they're like, so what did you do? And even if you tell them, they're not, unless they're in a space to retain what you just shared with them on how to fix it, they're gonna not remember it unless it really is something that they're needing to not have to call someone to fix to do. So that's something that I just want to share with you all in thinking about just technology as a whole. Speaking of technology, shout out, and I think I might have talked about this before on the show, and if I have, I'm sorry, but it's becoming near and dear to me. Please be aware of when you need to take what's considered as a tech rest. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, what do you mean by a tech rest, and why is that such a big deal? Well, personally, we're in a position now where content has become so immediate to us that we really don't even know what to do with the immediate information that we're getting. And sometimes that can be one of our best friends, but it can also be a beautiful nightmare. And I'm only bringing it up in that form or in that verbiage because many instances tech will dominate you more than you realize, and then you're sitting there like, why am I in this space of like feeling as though I need to take on everything and anything that's in front of me? And sometimes you really and honestly do not need to. You don't need. It's cool to be in the know. It's cool to have the information, but sometimes you don't. It's okay if you don't have the information this time. Like, no one's going to like abandon you or not talk to you because you weren't aware of something that someone like brought up or addressed or whatever. Like, for some reason, content consumption can get really, really tricky, even though it's not tricky. And in many instances, we need those spaces and we need those moments of like experiencing tech rest. Two young ladies, I've been following them for it's been about a year and a half almost. In my mind, I'm thinking it's 2 years, but I'm like, it's been a good minute. And their names are Anna and MJ. They started as space-time monotasking, which I could go down a super duper rabbit hole about that, but I'm not going to. But they've changed the name now to space-time productivity. And I am a huge advocate of productivity. And this goes into something that I want to get into because I think it's a topic without being a topic. Give me 1 sec, because y'all know how I do. If it's not shared, it is gone. Productivity is very undervalued in many people's lives. And I'm not sitting here saying we all got to go out and be the most productive people and do 1,001 things. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is utilizing opportunities to get what you can done with the time that you have to knock it out. So on one of their podcasts they've collaborated and worked on is called Overthinking It. And they wrote a blog about this first, related to the official guide of tech rest. And I'm going to have both the blog and the podcast in the show notes for you all to check out. But the blog kind of explains what the actual podcast discusses. But it's just mainly about learning how to get off your phone and just do what it is you got to do. Lately, I've been one to stand on the fact that I have really gotten latched to just routines and habits and knocking down tasks, but then I also can get off course. Like yesterday, it seemed so small. Like I didn't use, and y'all know I'm always going to talk about it, so prepare for my regular spiel about the break. But I did not use my break a lot yesterday. I didn't use it a lot last week, to be real. But I did some navigating a little different, where it's those simple things that we really don't think about, such as put your phone somewhere else other than when you're normally working. Like if I'm working where I'm set up and doing my podcast today, I can put I work in this area as well. So it's like, okay, if I know it's hey, we got to get some work done. We got to make some things happen. Phone goes elsewhere. Let's get to it. And it becomes an adjustment, but it's worth the adjustment. The latest one that I did, and I think it's not too far nearby, I bought a lockbox, and I've talked about this on the show before. I got a genuine lockbox that is for the phone. Put the phone, have the phone. If it's got like a pop socket, take it off of the back. Put the phone inside of it. Now, everyone's preferential and different. I use it face down. I'm not going to sing the rest because I don't want copyright and it's not appropriate. But place the phone face down so you can't see the screen. Close the top, the lid. It comes with its own little plastic key. Lock the phone in the box. And I'm good. And if it's like, oh my gosh, it's low on battery, charge it up while it's in there. And you're then now put in a position of, unless you really and truly need this phone, now you're learning your next level of intention. But between the podcast or the blog, check out their show. Their show is on Spotify as well. I'm sharing the Apple Podcast link, but I just want you to give some time to that and really think about learning how to give your tech a rest. And to mention the aforementioned point about the whole Microsoft going down, same thing applies. Like, this is a point, and this was a space where a lot of people needed to like give tech a rest and pick up a book. Even if you may not like it, pick up a Kindle. Yesterday, I got pulled in a nostalgic space. Let me tell y'all real quick before I go into the next few topics. I happened to find a iPod that was probably one of the first iPods I ever purchased. It was a gold original iPod with this was before the color screens came out. So it was like just a white background, backlit or whatever. And it's so nostalgic looking at it because I was like, this was our life. Like, we literally we were taking iPods and you would hook, like, they would give you these two cables. One was so that if you wanted to connect it to Mac, the other one was to connect it to Windows if it had the traditional USB. And you would add all the whatever music for that particular one. It wasn't a lot of music, but it was some music on there to play. And I'm like, I've been teetering this idea and I'm still not 100% on board with it yet, but it's been considering and been crossing my mind of like, Bryan, find an iPod Classic, but I need to find an iPod Classic that will work in the modern flow. And I'm not sitting here saying I need it to be able to stream. I don't want it for streaming purposes, but I would like it for the music factor and to be able to add actual songs to it. But what I've also considered, and I'm still doing it now, is I've kind of gone back to my OG, which is pretty much the starting point of what got me on the Apple train, which is my iPod Touch. I've used that more often. Took some wired headphones. It goes into another topic, and I'm sorry, my bad. I know I'm veering off course, but I promise you I'm coming back. Put some headphones to it and stream whatever I'm listening to. So I'm usually doing Apple Music on there. I play Pandora. Been trying to get radio tunes and digitally imported to play, but it's like it'll open, but it gives a difficult time with opening. I've used 1.FM on here, which I think if you want a radio station that's just a good radio station to play and just have like available for the purpose of playing or listening to the radio, get 1.FM. 1.FM has all your stations, all your stuff that you're going to listen to, and you're all set. You don't need anything extra with it. So those are some suggestions. I think I might have, I got it on here. 181.FM is also one of my faves. I think 181.FM is underrated too. They have a lot of good, they have just good, if you're like, hey, I just want to play some music and I don't really want to go through the whole big time, big boy box apps, those are good, starting points. 1.FM and 181.FM. They're not spammy. They're not malware-ish, anything. They're beneficial for what they need to be used for. So that's a few resources in that regard. I am going to bring a community to the front. So if you are listening and this applies to you, come hither and let's have a chit chat for a moment. The Bujo community, aka the bullet journal community, has been a big thing for the last nearly 10 years, give or take. I'm starting with that and I'm going in that direction because bullet journaling was started by a gentleman, or by a male named Ryder Carroll. I am the biggest Ryder Carroll fan of his, not just his content, but also just the entire flow of just the overall flow of the actual this is why sometimes you don't want to do stuff, the overall flow of just the bullet journal, and it works for how I've done it. Like, I've been on board with it for 4 years, but I got a problem, and maybe someone who's listening can text this in. Someone who knows me could text this in. I'm having this as a genuine conversation with anyone who's listening. I've seen the women show out for this community. I've seen men show out for this community, but I've only seen white men and white women really show out for the bullet journal community. And I'll even say the planning community. I think I've seen a lot of women who are black women who do planning, but I don't see many black men. And I will probably hear this from someone who's saying it, this might be your time to start it. And if it is, it is. I'm okay with that. But I want to know if there's anyone that's already doing this, anyone that's been starting this, that's been talking about it. What's the word? What's the get down? Not even like, oh, what's the tea, but like, how do we make this become a thing? Because I really know it should already, if at some point, be a thing. And I'm open to feedback, I'm open to input on it, but I really am in a space where I would like to meet fellow bullet journalers who are men that are black. And that's just what it comes down to. Like, I'm not again, and hear me out. If I meet other bullet journal men, just men in general, I'm appreciative of that too, especially if they're in the minimalist space, because don't get me wrong, like, I call it the Pinterest craze of bullet journaling, but I'm more of a keep it simple, keep it pushing. I don't need this to be anything oversaturated, and I'm good. It's not, and to be 100% clear, it ain't everybody's thing. So I get that too. So I don't really give a lot of pushback or a lot of aggression towards like, oh no, everyone needs to be doing bullet journaling. Nah, I don't see it that way, but I do see it where it's great and it's a joy to see more folks doing it and embracing the space of doing or attempting bullet journaling just in general, because it is such a in my opinion, it's a very undervalued space, whether folks know it or not. So that's my startup, or that's my build up with that topic or that feeling or thought. That's the space I have for that. And like I said, I'm open to making it a conversation, but just something to consider and talk about. These are going to be coincided, so I'm just going to roll with it. I would play some well, I don't have the interface set up, so I'm not going to change it in this case, but this may be something I might start doing soon. As humans, and this might be a 3-for-1, because this will probably be the message to pass along. I know a lot of times I'm always saying, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep giving it your best, push, get through it, make it happen. And it's like, cool, you got to push, you got to make things happen. I'm 100% on board with all of those things. Many times in our lives, whether we're a fan of it or not, we need that cool down, we need that burn down, we need that moment of just breathing and not being on 10. I'm sharing this with anyone who is listening to the podcast as an open suggestion, an open recommendation. If you opt not to do it, totally respect it. But I'm providing it as a helpful insight or a helpful starting point. Try to find that position and try to find that space of just slowing down. As hard as it is not to, give yourself that position and that opportunity of just slowing down. Life around you is going, and I 100% understand it, and I 100% relate. But there are going to be times in your life, and there are going to be times in your routine that you just need to not be as pressured or not as pushed as everyone else thinks you should be. You've got to find your rhythm or your jam. And for many people, most of them don't know their jam. You are not intended to play 180 beats per minute and roll with it. Sometimes you need that mellow, calm moment of like, put on something that just adds a little bit of a ding, just a little bit of relaxation. So I want you, like I'm sharing this with you all, to slow down in the rush. One of my listeners suggested this, and I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to work with this and make this a thing, but I'm going to implement a section. So in a few seconds, I'm going to implement this as the meditation corner. And I'm just going to set a minute for you all to just kind of get your thoughts in order and just kind of relax. So it's going to start in 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 3, 2, 1. You're almost there. 2, 1. All right. So that is a 1 minute attempt. We're gonna utilize each episode starting now as like a meditation corner or like a moment of just a minute to just reset. And I probably will just, it may be a layered part. And I don't want to do it as I'm going to record and then just mute, because that would just not work. I want you to still get like natural sounds and hear whatever's going on, which may not be a lot, because other than that, just happened. Sorry. But I just want you to take time to just breathe and just give yourself a space to not feel as pressured and pressed by all that's going on in the world. As you all know, I don't talk about politics, and I'm not going to start on this show. A lot of conspiracists have made talks and thoughts about everything. I'm not going to get into that. All I'm going to say is despite all that is going on around you, it's going to be going on and it's not going to stop going on. But I want you to take more time and just find your calm, find your space, and just relax. In the meditation corner for this, at least, especially this week, because one of my friends has me in the accountability spin, which I don't mind because I'm always about helping people to excel at whatever it is, just like they are there to do the same for me. We're starting a meditation challenge. So, and let me give some info before I go too in depth. This is not requiring you to run out and buy a yoga mat and buy a meditation mat and all that stuff. Do not go trying to spend money on things that you don't have to get this fulfilled. However, I want you to find a calming or relaxing space in your environment. I know I did that 1 minute stint earlier, but I want you to, after the show is done, start doing it. Try doing this daily. Allot yourself 5 minutes, just 5, not even like going hard. Then I'm gonna give a meditation story, and then we'll pass the message and get y'all up out of here. Just start with 5 minutes and just relax. Now, if you want to put on earbuds, you want to put on headphones and find relaxing music, that's fine. Do not play your trap, your turn up, your rock, your country, all of the high level stuff. Give it a rest. We want to slow down. So find some, I usually recommend binaural beats, solfeggio. Believe it or not, classical music is good for meditation. Find music that's going to give you energy to keep you alert, but not put you in a space of while you're meditating, falling asleep. Do not feel like you got to sit on the floor and all that. No, you do not have to do that. You do not have to sit there and close your eyes. If you want to be in a present and aware state, that's fine too. But just find that position or find that space of just relaxing and start at 5 minutes. Story time, pass the message, we good. Meditation started for me on a very wild path, and I've, talked about the stuff that I have for it. Like, I still have my equipment from my friends. Shout out to Rach. She's been a real one. Lord, we've been friends close to 30 years. That is insane, but a lot of people would be not surprised if they've known me that long, because it's like, hey, if you've been around this long, you're stuck. So it is what it is. But I started with 5. I did 5-minute meditation sessions. I bumped it up to 10. There was one point I was doing 20-minute meditation sessions. I even went to it was an event. It was held I forgot where it was held specifically. It wasn't far from my school, from my high school. And while in there, you're sitting there, and they were like, okay, we're going to have y'all do meditation. I'm like, all right, yeah, we're going to do a meditation. Cool, like 20, 30 minutes. We meditated and we sat there for an hour. I didn't even know I could, and I ain't even saying it's being funny. I didn't realize that I could sit for an hour, but I was like, no, this is not that bad. Like, just to kind of cool out, unplug, give all of the tech, give tech a rest. And that's another part of that too. I want to add, when you do this meditation, phone in do not disturb. Set a timer on your phone if you want the timer to go off as an alert, that's fine. If you're going to play music, a lot of people don't do this. This is a secret, but not a secret. At the 10-minute mark, or at the 5-minute mark, I'm sorry, at the 5-minute mark, change it so that when it stops playing, to turn the music off or stop the music. And then you can know that you're finished. But if you don't want to add an alarm, because sometimes you don't need an alarm to be like, okay, it's 5 minutes, I'm done. Because then your mentally is going to think about your alarm when you're waking up. So you don't want to distinguish or overwhelm yourself with those. But just try it. See how it goes. It might become a thing for you. It might be something that you actually genuinely enjoy and you make it a habit. or implement it as a new part of your routine. You never know. You'd be more surprised at what you don't find yourself doing when it becomes something that you enjoy and love doing. And that's my message that I'm leaving with you all. Do those things that will challenge you, but are gonna bring you joy, but they might be a little uncomfortable. Like something as small as disconnecting from people, like people disconnecting from their phones, that is uncomfortable as all outdoors. But it's the aftermath of it. Like this morning, oh my gosh, I was about to hit my head on the microphone. Y'all have been like, okay, he just does not know what he's doing with podcasting. But I went out to do my walk. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go do this walk. I'm ready. I'm about to go to my normal spot, go around the track. Everything's great. I get ready to head that way. And as I'm going that way, I see that they have the road closed off. Shout out to Terry and Toya. By the way, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Shout out to Sherry and Toya. My bad. They were bringing me up to speed on everything that was going on, and I was like, oh, it's like one of those scenarios. But, and I'm gonna clean it. Y'all know I'm about to clean it up. I ain't getting me caught up. That's why I always edit my shows. But anyway, I got the information, and I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna be able to go to my normal spot and walk. So I'm like, dang, I'm not going back home because that's gonna defeat the whole purpose of me getting out to do what I need to do. So fast forward, I said, man, let me go. Last week I went to a different spot to walk, so let me go there again and let's wash, rinse, and repeat. I wash, I rinse, I repeat. I add a couple modifications, and I made some changes to the walk process, but still, walked just about went through the park a couple times, but also went around the city a little bit and hit the 3.5 mark a little earlier than expected. And then I'm like, oh shoot, this is where that walk thing becomes an issue, because then I'm like, I got to get back to my car, which wasn't a big deal because it wasn't that far. But I'm like, all right, let me go ahead and get this walk done, get back to the car, and go from there. So I get back to the car, and I pretty much just about did like 3.75 miles. My initial target was 3.5. So I added in, like, for lack of a better term, I would have added another lap if I was doing it at where I normally would walk. And I was like tired, but not tired. I took a lot more breaks this time around, but it was worth it. But going back to the initial message to be passed, the discomfort showed, but I was like, bro, you got to do it. Like, it ain't even about wanting to do it. You got to do it. And I was glad that I did. Like, even my jug of water, I was like, man, let me go ahead. Like, I'm telling you, jug of water, comfortable shoes after walking. If you need to, change a shirt and a towel, for guys, obviously. I was like, yeah, we good. Let me go ahead and wrap it up. And I'll add this and I'm gonna let y'all go. I was finishing up the walk, or as I'm walking through the city, like, cause I kind of did my normal walk. Like, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go around this park, and I'm just walking around the park. So I did about 3 or 4 laps. And by the last lap, I said, you know what? I'm gonna go through the city to get the last part of this done. And there was this girl who was walking, and no, I'm sorry, not walking. She was running. And every different area that I was going to, I'd see her just running, and I'm like, she is getting it. I'm like, how many miles she going? Cause I ain't there yet, but I also have to remind myself too, and this is a habit. This is people being creatures of habit. Just because someone else is doing something at the pace they doing doesn't mean that you got to be like, oh, I got to match them and go harder. And it's like, no, you just need to get what you need to get done and knock it out. And that was my main focal point more than anything else, is just making sure I got it finished, which I was glad I got it finished. I was glad I was able to get that check mark. we're going to have fun talking about that on Monday. So looking forward to that. But yeah, man, take care of your well-being. Put yourself in a better position day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour. And most importantly, 1% better every day. And in the words of the great Kobe Bryant, late great Kobe Bryant, fulfill the mantra of a constant quest to be the best version of oneself. If you're not fulfilling that, continue working. Wash, rinse, and repeat until you get it right. And if you don't get it done, do it again. And if you do get it done, do it again. All right, y'all. I'll catch you later. Have a good one.
Truly hope you all enjoyed the show. Definitely was a lot to unpack, but I know you'll walk away with something important. As I share at the end of each season, do find your way to get into podcasting if it's something you would like to do. My podcasts are currently recorded via Buzzsprout. Been very good to me. If you want to learn more about using them, definitely hit me up at thepastbtpod@gmail.com. And also the microphone that you're hearing me on is the Blue Yeti X. Have been rolling with it for over 3 years. We've been doing this ride for quite some time, so I hope someone could find this mic useful. Again, find those people who are good or helpful in what you're trying to do to be better today than you were yesterday. The primary goal is to be 1% better. Hope you all have an amazing day, and we'll be back again to do this next time.